And hello, folks. So, welcome to today's information session webinar. We have not begun just yet, so we're letting folks come into the room, get familiar, get out of that waiting room. I don't know how entertaining the waiting room is. I don't know if Zoom's gotten any better at providing entertainment in there, but thanks for hanging out while we were getting everything all set up for you. While you enter the room, what we found to be kind of like a fun thing at our Clear Mid events is let us know where you're joining us from. Whether that's the country, the city, both. Throw that into the chat. Just give us like an idea of where you're from today. It is fun for us to kind of see who we're speaking with. And I already see a couple different answers here. So we're seeing a few different locations within India, 3 locations within India now, the Philippines as well, Los Angeles, hopefully all as well. In Los Angeles, a lot going on there with all kinds of things. It's like, I want to quote Wizard of Oz, where it's like, I think it's earthquakes, hurricanes, and typhoons. Oh my, it's like you kind of have everything going on there right now. So best of luck if you're over there. Hopefully all is well. Arizona, I'm seeing a few more locations in India, Nigeria as well, Boston. So we're covering the globe. So thank you all for starting your day with us, maybe ending your day with us, maybe waking up in the middle of the night. Or maybe just having lunch, for the folks in Boston. So again, welcome to our event today. This is a Carnegie Mellon University event. So I'm Mike. I'm with Clear Admit. Clear Admit is a MBA applicant community and resource site. So if you're looking to go off to one of the top business schools in the world, we have a lot of really great resources that you can utilize to assist you in the application process. Everything from tips about the application to essay writing help to interview guides, and of course our Livewire tracker, which is just fun during the year to kind of see who's getting in to all the different top schools. And hopefully you'll be able to enter your information on our wire feeds as well as things continue and progress in this year's application process. But that's enough about us. We want to make sure we introduce our host for today's session. We have Douglas Alford, who is the Director of Master's Admissions over at Carnegie Mellon Tepper. Joined the team just last year, so full year under your belt, Douglas. Hopefully that's it feels a lot better. I always talk to folks like after you get 1 year down, it's easy now. It's like you just do it again. It's like riding a bike year after year. And so Douglas, I'll pass it over to you to get started with today's session. I'm gonna hang out in the background and I look forward to hearing everything you have to say about Tepper.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the screen now again, which is really appreciated. So this allows me to go ahead and jump into the presentation, which I'm very excited about. So again, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. We're very excited to partner with Clear Admit, and I look forward to spending the next hour or so with you. We're going to be discussing 7 key steps that you can actually take, and this is going to help you stand out in our application process. So as the title says, you're going to chart your path to a Tepper MBA. Again, my name is Douglas Alford. I am the Director of Master's Admissions at the Tepper School. While it is a nice title, that really just tells you more about what I do. It doesn't really dive into who I am or dive into more about why I chose to fall into this route, this profession, to take on this role. So let's actually tackle that just briefly. So again, I'm the Director of Master's Admissions at the Tepper School of Business. I chose a career in higher education. I look at it as a career, as an admissions professional, because I wanted a role that could provide some type of societal value. Prior to working in college admissions, I actually worked in sales for a large company called, a large Fortune 500 company. I'll leave them unnamed for now, but it was a nice job. It was a nice salary, but to be completely honest, I was just not happy. I just didn't feel like I was doing what I was meant to do. I didn't feel like I was following the correct path in my life. And I wanted a job where I could actually see myself helping people. And I truly found that in college admissions. I've been able to step into a role that I view as more of a connective bridge between talented students and amazing academic opportunities. Now, some of you may view this role as that of a gatekeeper. You may have an image of someone that is behind a desk, someone who takes pleasure in saying the word no, the person in the game of Monopoly who is happy to say, do not pass go, do not collect your $200, where I'm here to tell you again, that is not me. I believe in positive accuracy. So essentially what I believe is that when reviewing applications, I think it's very important for someone such in my role to look for reasons to admit students and not look for reasons to actively deny students. So again, for me, when I'm reviewing an application, I'm looking for signs that you may be a great fit for the program. So I say this because I want you to know it's important, because I've been through a graduate degree myself. I know how difficult the search process can be. I know how tough it may be for everyone to find the needed information. I personally believe in being as transparent as possible, and I always try to put students first. When I had a chance to connect with Mike and we wanted to discuss the topic for today's session, I wanted to go over these 7 tips to help you chart your path to Tepper MBA, because I believe this is truly going to put you in the best position to gain admissions. Now you know a little bit more about myself. And I promise I'm going to make sure that we use this time to give you some keen insight. Now, the first step on this 7-step journey is just to get prepared. Now, I say that this is very important because from my experience, students who are more informed generally perform better in the application process. You know, they submit stronger essays, they perform better in the interview process. You know, at the end of the day, they're just more knowledgeable about the program, and it really does show. So if you want to be in this group, the more knowledgeable group, please make sure that you check out our Tepper MBA viewbook. If you're not sure where you can find it, you can simply just download it from our website. You can also receive it via email by visiting our website and completing the Ask for More Information link. Again, the viewbook is going to give you a deep dive into our program. It's going to give you some of the specifics that you're looking for. It's going to include firsthand accounts from the Tepper MBA experience from some of our recent graduates. So I know it's really nice to hear from someone like myself who's an admissions professional, but I know many of you also hearing directly from students, so you can get those accounts there. This is also going to help you gain a better understanding of the educational experience as well. And that's going to be helpful because that's really going to help you determine what really separates a Tepper MBA from some of our peer institutions, some of those other top 20 MBA programs that you may be considering. Now, there's something else that I want everyone to do, and that's going to be step 2, which on the plus side, step 2 is pretty simple, but it's also still very important. Now, I mentioned earlier that it's important to stay informed in regards to the program, but before you begin the actual application, it's important that you understand the application process. And I think one of the best ways in which you can do this is going to be the ACAP mini-series. It's going to really help you understand what you need to know about our Tepper MBA application process. Now, if you sign up for this online mini-series, you're going to get access to a few different items. First being a Tepper information session. This is going to help you decide which program is going to be the best fit for yourself. We offer a few academic programs, a few MBA formats. We have a full-time format, and then we also have a couple of part-time offerings as well. So this information session is going to give you a little bit more information about the format, as well as help you determine which one is going to be the best fit for you before you even begin the application. You'll also get to review, or you'll get to participate in an application workshop. Application workshop is exactly what it sounds like, which is really great because you'll get a behind-the-scenes look at the application with our admissions team. You'll get a breakdown of the application part by part. You'll discuss also how you can really best advocate for yourself. And then one of the last items you'll get in the ACAP mini-series is actually going to be the Demystifying the Tepper MBA interview webinar. Now, this is really helpful because the interview can be one of the more stressful components. I know that many students have a little bit of anxiety about the interview process. We want to help relieve that as much as possible. Like I said, we understand it's going to be stressful, but if you can review the Demystifying the Interview webinar, it's going to be very helpful for you. By watching this video, you're going to get tips on how to better prepare for the interview, and that's going to allow you to be your authentic self, which is really what we want. We're not looking for a robotic version of yourself. We want you, and we want the best version of yourself. So make sure that you get a chance to review the webinar prior to the interview. Now, the next step is going to be step number 3. And this ties into quite a few different components of the application. First, we encourage you to see what type of career opportunities a Tepper MBA will open up. I recommend visiting our website. This will allow you to review the career services page. It's also going to give you access to our alumni profiles. Now, I think this is important because it's going to show you what type of employers, it's going to show you what type of industries, as well as what type of geographic regions of the country here in the US or all over the world, really, where our students end up going to. You're also going to get an opportunity to read more about how the Master's Career Center office really helps to prepare our students to either make a hard career pivot or to advance or accelerate their career. And then you're also going to get more of those firsthand accounts. So again, firsthand accounts from our current students and graduates about how the MCC office is able to support their career search. And they're able to do so through various ways. That could be one-on-one career counseling. It could be assisting in interview preparation, or it could be more information about some of the on-campus recruitment experiences that help lead our students to achieving their post-MBA goals. There's also another tool on the website that I think could be really helpful, and you can actually download it, and it's called the MCC Career Report. And that's a very detailed report. And what it has is the MBA graduates' career outcomes. So you can see a breakdown of where our students are 6 months after graduation. So you'll see a breakdown of industries. You'll even see a breakdown of MBA salaries. And again, you can compare the salaries across different industries and across different titles. So there's going to be a lot of information there. I think it's really helpful. To me, I think it's a really good opportunity to better gauge the return on investment that a Tepper MBA provides. Now, step 4, I consider this another journey of exploration. So step 4 is really a time for you to, instead of exploring more about the career outcomes, you're going to spend some time exploring our curricular map. So you will view a complete breakdown. So you're going to get a semester by semester look at your time at Tepper. Now, we don't actually call them semester, we call them minis. That's another conversation for another day. But again, you're getting a complete breakdown of what it looks like, semester to semester. So you'll see what core courses are required. You'll see where you have the opportunity to insert electives. You'll see what type of space and time you have for global study tracks or internship opportunities. If you're interested in our part-time program, you'll see when the access weekends will take place. So again, you'll get an in-depth look into your schedule. Also, if you're looking at this slide, you can see that this step will also allow you to spend some time focusing on the different academic disciplines and opportunities that the program will have as well. Obviously, if you can see these concentration, these tracks, these different degree opportunities, you can see what type of courses will also align with the program as well. You'll also get a chance to decide which track of concentration may be the best fit for you as well when you're trying to forecast your career journey where you can see yourself going after the program. Now, I know this section can seem a bit overwhelming, but please know that you're not beholden to any curricular commitment that you make throughout the application process once you join the program. You also, truthfully, you don't even have to choose a track or a concentration in your first year. So you have more than enough time to also spend some time meeting with an advisor to figure this out while also meeting with the Career Center as well. But it's good to know that you have different options when you're considering your MBA program. So again, you can use this information to better determine your fit and get a better understanding of the program. Now, the next step, is step 5.
Douglas, a quick question there. Sorry to interrupt. It came through on the chat. So on that last slide, can you select more than 2 tracks? Is the figured it's on topic there.
So absolutely. No, I'm happy to go on this. So that was a really good question. So you cannot select more than 2 tracks, but what you can select is a multitude of concentrations. So the tracks are a bit too stringent curricular. So there's just too many courses for you to fit 2 tracks within your time period at the program. But you can fit a multitude of concentrations. So it's not uncommon for a Tepper MBA student to have 3 to 4 different concentrations. So I think it's best to look at your track as a major and then your concentration as a minor. So if there's a overlap between 2 tracks and you see there's a concentration that you think may also be a good fit, that's generally the best course of action. But no, a really good question as well, and I'd be happy to touch more on that if necessary. So again, please do not hesitate to bring that up as well. But now when it comes to step 5, again, I want to make sure that we get a chance to further explore the Tepper MBA experience. And I think you can do this by doing it virtually. So I think visiting Tepper, it's a perfect way to go. We want you to come and check out the Tepper Quad. We want you to be more familiar with the campus MBA suite by doing so, physically. However, the virtual place is the perfect place to start. You can sign up for a virtual campus tour. You can check out our facilities. You can see what it's actually like to be at the Tepper Quad. You can see what it's like to be a student. You can get more familiar with our space before actually visiting in person. We also, this will give you opportunity to connect with students who also share a little bit more insight into the Tepper experience as well. And you can hear from them directly through what we call our Tepper MBA journey. So these are actually videos. So it's the Tepper MBA journey videos. So they're pretty short. They're roughly around 2 minutes, but they're really jam-packed. So you get a lot of relevant information. They provide really, you get a wide array of different students, different student populations, different perspectives, students from different personal backgrounds, industry backgrounds. We have a wide representation that I think is really helpful. So this is nice because it gives you a really good starting point. You get to see where students are coming from, and then you also really get to see where they're going. And again, it's a very wide representation. So you're gonna find someone with a similar background, with a similar journey, with a similar purpose to yourself. So you can really get the chance to see how their MBA journey could be similar to yours. So, I think those videos are very helpful. And along with the virtual campus tour are a great way to really explore the MBA experience at Tepper. And then step 6 is a bit more simple. Actually, I think it's as simple as you can get. This is essentially the point where you take all the information that you've learned in steps 1 through 5, and you take the plunge. You start your application, and then you complete your application. Again, there's no rush. There's no rush to submit an application again. You should just submit your application when you feel most comfortable. Obviously, you'll be paying attention to the deadlines. And, while I will personally recommend submitting an application as early as you feel comfortable, it's much more important to submit your best application than it is to submit your earliest application. So try to keep that in mind while you're prepping and getting ready to actually hit submit. You want to feel comfortable that the application that you submit is your best and will better advocate for yourself through the application process. And then the final step that I want to touch on is just the interview. So, step 7 is just to get ready for the interview. So remember, this is a one-on-one interview with a member of our admissions team. You're going to be nervous. That's okay. But remember, this is a conversation about you. And as best as I know, you're an expert on yourself. So you've watched the Demystifying the Interview webinar already at this point, so you're going to be well prepared. However, if you want to have a few extra tips, what I would recommend is scheduling a call with one of our admissions ambassadors. Again, these are current MBA students. They've been through this process before. They've spent some time at Tepper. So if you have questions about the Tepper MBA experience, or if you're looking for just a few words of wisdom, how to better prepare yourself for an interview, they're going to be there to help you and guide your path along the way. So again, those are the 7 steps that help chart your path to a Tepper MBA. Now, some of these steps mention resources. So you may be asking yourself, how do you gain access to those resources? So we actually have something called the Chart Your Path to Tepper, which is a program that we offer and you can gain access to by visiting our website and signing up for it. Or since you've attended this event, we're going to have the opportunity to reach out to you as well. And when we reach out to you via email, we're going to give you access to the Chart Your Path as well. If you complete these 7 steps, not only will it give you the tools and the information necessary to submit your strongest application for admissions, it's also going to give you an application fee waiver. Now, our applications is $200. $200 means something different to every student. Me, on the other hand, I am very frugal and I would like to keep my $200. So if I was a student applying for the program, I would ensure that I completed the Chart Your Path, not only for the benefit of gaining insight and to be able to sit a strong application, but also the financial component as well. So again, you're going to get access to the charter path, and you're going to get access to the resources that I mentioned by signing up to the charter path. So the ACF mini series, opportunity to connect with current students, opportunity to sign up for the virtual campus tour. All of those things will be included in the charter path if you sign up for it. So again, if those 7 steps sounds like something that would be a good fit for you and something that you're interested in, again, we'll be reaching out to you via email. Just make sure that you sign up for the charter path and you'll gain all that access as well. So again, I wanted to thank you for taking some time to allow me to take a look at some of this information. We also want to make sure we took some time to answer any lingering questions which you may have, and we're going to do so now.
Awesome. Thank you, Douglas, for the information there. Very, very helpful. I'm sorry, let me get my lighting here all figured out. Okay, great. So we do have a couple questions that came in. Folks, if you have additional questions, please put them in the Q&A box. I'll also look through the chat, but the Q&A box is just a little more organized. So help us out, and we'll try to get to as many as we possibly can. So the first one that I see here is, when does the application for fall 2024 come out? Or is it out already?
Yeah, so actually you should be able to go ahead and go to our website and click on the apply link, so you should be able to access it. The key is, there's 2 frames of thought. So some people want to go ahead and start application, open application, start application, and review it. I generally recommend that as well. But I do like people to take a little bit of time doing what I mentioned in step 1, and that's getting ready. So before you start the application, at least try to get ready beforehand. Know more information about our program, because as I said, people are a little bit more informed. They're going to do a better job of actually, do a better job of advocating for themselves, because they're going to have a better understanding of their actual fit. So students who understand the curricular format, students who understand the concentration and the tracks that may be a good fit for them, students who understand the resources in which we have here at the Tepper School, whether it's the Master's Career Center, the Accelerate Leadership, and some of the communication coaching that you get from those other resources or other campus partners in which we have, are going to do a better job in the application process. They simply will. They're going to be more knowledgeable, and they're going to be able to really relay their personal fit within our program, and that's going to be beneficial to them. So my first recommendation is, before you go ahead and start open the application, start and hit submit, is to take the time to learn about the program. And then once you feel comfortable and you went through the charter path, then I want you to start your application at that point. Again, there's no rush to start.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think that's something that's huge, because I think when people think of applications, right, it's just, I have to put this information in, I want to be first. They might look at my application first, and that's not really how it works. Like, they'll look at applications when they look at applications. There's not necessarily a rhyme or reason as to like the timing of when you submit versus when it's reviewed. So don't rush it. Like, take your time. The deadlines are there for a reason, as long as you're not after the deadline, which you can catch the next one. But if you want to get in for round 1, that's the deadline there. You can apply the day before. Don't start that, but start now, send it the day before, and take that time. Make sure you're putting your best foot forward. So good advice there. So another couple of questions. I'm going to group some of these together, folks. So I see that there's a lot of questions about testing. So I'm going to try to ask these in a way that we can probably knock out a handful of these questions at the same time. So number 1 is the timing of when someone would submit their test scores versus when their application comes in. So for example, if someone wanted to be in for a round 1 application, but their testing won't be available until after the round 1 deadline, when do they get reviewed?
Okay, perfect. Now I'm happy to answer that question. I also want to touch on something from the first question when we talked about when to submit your application, and we talked about the deadlines. Again, I mentioned earlier that we want to be as transparent as possible. So not only do we list the application deadline, we list the decision date. So you'll know when to actually expect the decision. So again, take your time to make sure that you're meeting the deadline. Just as Mike mentioned, you probably don't want to start your application the same day the deadline is there, but when your deadlines are and you have more than enough time to complete them. Now, regarding the standardized testing, the first thing I want to mention is for our program, we do require a standardized test score. So we require either a GMAT, a GRE, or an EA, the executive assessment. We have no preference which testing service you utilize. Whichever one you feel most comfortable with is what we recommend. My personal recommendation is to do practice tests with each, figure out which one you feel most confident in, which one you think can better serve your application, and then go with that. But I also like to make sure that people understand that while we have a standardized test score requirement, we also offer a test application waiver. So you may be a good fit for the waiver, and that information is listed both on our website and within the application. So if you look at our application page on our website, you'll see what type of student or candidate may be a good fit for the waiver. And then you'll see even more information and instructions built into the application. To make a long story short, I think there's two things to know if you're considering a test waiver. First being that if a waiver is approved, doesn't mean you're going to be automatically admitted. If a waiver is denied, doesn't mean you're going to be automatically denied as applicant. It just means that our admissions team believes that this information could be more helpful to your application and can help us make a more informed decision regarding your candidacy. Now, to answer your question again more directly about when you should be sending your test scores. So as long as you submit your application and you've requested that your test scores be sent by that date and what the deadline is, we should be able to process your application. But if I'm being frank, we're not going to review your application until it's complete. And until we actually either receive an official test score and until you have an approved test score waiver, your application is going to be incomplete. Now, let's say you apply round one for one of our programs and you apply for a test waiver and your test waiver decision hadn't been received. And let's say for whatever reason it's denied. Then now you need to go and prep for a standardized test score. Then you're obviously not going to have your application complete in round one, which is fine because there's still time in round two. But if you know for sure that you're going to send a standardized test score, you just want to make sure that it's received within our office in a reasonable amount of time for us to seriously consider you as an applicant for that round. If we don't feel like that's the case, we'll simply let you know and we'll offer you the opportunity to move your application from round one to round two in that case. The time when it's really more of an issue if you're applying towards one of our last round and you have yet to submit that standardized test score, that's an instance where you want to be a bit more, you really want to put a bit more pep in yourself to make sure that we have all your application materials in order for us to actually review your application. Again, we practice positive advocacy. We're working to help you submit your application. We want you to finish your application. We want to be able to consider you because you've shown interest in us, and the least we could do is give you a strong look in the applicant pool. So we're going to work with you if we can.
That's great. And you actually covered a couple of the other testing questions that I saw. So that was awesome. The waiver was another big question here as well in a couple different areas. So thank you for that. And hopefully that covers for all the folks who are asking about testing, test waivers, and the timing of that.
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me mention just one more thing about the waiver. I meant to touch on this. And I just want to make sure because I think it could be really helpful. Because one of the common questions I get is, who is the waiver for? The waiver is for anyone who wants to submit it. There's no harm in submitting it. Either it's going to be approved or it's going to be denied. So if for whatever reason you don't want to submit a standardized test score, or you don't think it's going to be beneficial to your application, and you want to submit a waiver, feel free to. No one's stopping you. But who I think the waiver really benefits, there are a couple of different populations. So let's say you've previously taken a standardized test score. You're confident in your quantitative ability. However, you simply may not have the time in this case just to take a new one. There's a lot of information we can look at. We can look at your academic record. We can look at the quantitative courses that you've taken. Let's say you've taken like a high level math course and you perform admirably in that, we can look at that information. We can look at an expired test score. We can look at any other credential in which you received. Let's say you work as a county, you have some type of credential. We can look at all of that information. Let's say you're a medical professional and you've taken an MCAT. We can look at that standardized test. We can look at all this other information and make a test waiver decision. But let's say you're someone that doesn't have that quantitative background, that doesn't have that STEM background, that doesn't have a job that shows proof of quantitative ability. Then in that case, most likely the waiver really might not be a good fit for you because we may still have those questions in the application process. So you should really just look at your profile and then think about if a waiver may be a good choice for you. And if it's not, then you want to make sure that you're spending that time to submit a strong application by, prepping for the standardized test as much as you can.
Very helpful stuff. Sounds good to me. So moving into another application area. So I'm organizing this. I'm seeing your questions. Don't continue to put the same question in twice because I see it, but we're going in order here to try to keep organized, folks. So, so another question just about GPA, right? And how that kind of relates to testing and other things. But a question, how do you mitigate the impact of a lower GPA? Could you do something like a course like MBA math? Or would you prefer to do a higher GMAT score?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that I want to tack on is just like the language, like mitigate. I'm like, it sounds so dramatic. Listen, we don't have minimums on anything. There's no minimum when it comes to a standardized test. There's no minimum when it comes to GPA. There's no minimum when it comes to years of work experience. We're going to use a holistic review process. I know people hear holistic and sometimes there's a hesitancy to actually believe it, but that truly is the way this process works. We're adamant about utilizing that process because we know from our experience that it's going to give us the strongest group of MBA candidates for our program. And because of that, if a student, let's say if a student has a low GPA in comparison, what we're going to do is we're going to give that student an opportunity to shine in other areas. So let's say let's say in this case, your GPA isn't particularly high. You took a very rigorous curriculum. You struggle in a specific set of courses for whatever reason, but we look at your standardized test score. We look at your years of work experience. We look at your essays and your letter of recommendations, and we're very confident in your ability to not only come into the program and do the work at Tepper, but to excel and be a valued member of our class and our community. Then that's obviously a student that we're still going to want into the program. So there's a couple of things you can do. Number one, just submit the strongest application you can. Remember, it is a holistic review process, and every single question we ask, we're asking for a reason, and you should take that specific component of the application very seriously. Also, please know that we have an optional essay component, and the optional essay is a great space for you to share more insight into an area of your application that you think added context could be helpful. I'll say myself for a personal example. Again, this is a very personal example, but I also pursued a graduate degree. I have a master's of arts in higher education. Applying to my prior to applying to my program, I also dealt with a very similar situation. Throughout my undergraduate experience, one of my family, my father actually dealt with cancer. So it was a very difficult time for me personally and within my household. So it was a bit difficult to keep up with some of my academic work. So having the opportunity to explain that and have the admissions team review my academic background through that specific time in comparison to the other parts of my degree program, they can see the clear differentiation. So again, if there's more context that you can add to any component of your application, whether it's your transcript, test scores, work experience, essay, there's space for you to do that. Again, we're admissions professionals. We've seen literally anything that you can think of has been shared with us. So if there's something that you believe could be helpful in explaining any component of your application, I highly recommend that you do so.
Absolutely. Use the space, right? It's there for a reason. So definitely use the space. Transitioning into now letters of recs, just I guess like a primer, right? So like what are you looking for is the question, but are there any thoughts on like maybe specific folks that people should be asking at their companies or historically people that they've worked with in the past? I guess kind of what are your handful of tips on letters of rec?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a really good question as well. And, for me, I think what we're really looking for is someone that has a really good understanding of who you are, what you've done, as well as where you're going. Someone who can speak a little bit more about the quality of work in which you do and the potential in which you have within the workplace or the industry in which you're looking to transition to. So again, someone that's knowledgeable about your work experience, but also someone that's knowledgeable about what you're hoping to attain. One thing I think can be really helpful to supporting your recommender is providing a little bit more information about our program and about your why, about why you're specifically interested in Tepper. That way, if there's an opportunity for them to speak to that as well, that added context could be a bit more helpful for them. So, there's a lot of choices you can take with your recommender. If I'm being honest, most people generally pick one of their, most recent employers. They generally pick their current supervisor or maybe like the previous supervisor. That's generally what most people do. That tends to work well for most candidates. If there's a specific reason why maybe your current supervisor doesn't have a strong familiarity, maybe you're pretty new within your current role and you want to use a prior supervisor, that's more than fine as well. But at the end of the day, the key is to make sure that you touch base with them, spend some time talking about your goals and why you're interested in the program, why Tepper specifically, and that should generally be a bit more helpful for them and allowing them to submit a strong letter of recommendation for yourself.
Great advice once again. Okay, now we're going to transition into more of the program itself, just for a few questions here. And I think the first one I'll go to, because I see multiple people asking about social impact initiatives, and if there's any kind of connection to that, right? I mean, social initiatives, if it's clubs, if there's integrated into the coursework, if the faculty do anything around that, obviously it's an important thing that many programs are moving into more and more so. So any thoughts from the Tepper point of view?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, for me, one of the reasons, Mike, you mentioned earlier that I recently transitioned to working at Tepper. I've been very fortunate. I've had a chance to work at some very strong academic institutions. And one of the things that really sold me on Tepper was the flexibility within the program and their ability to meet the needs of their students. They're continuously like re-looking at the curriculum, looking for opportunities to better support students. I appreciate this. In general, that area of focus is something that's going to be more and more important as we continue to progress as a society. It's what our candidates are looking for. It's what society is asking more from their corporations. So it's going to be on the forefront, which I think is actually a really good thing. So you're going to see that continuously to be woven into our curriculum more and more. So what that looks like can really differ, whether it's a specific class, whether it could be the introduction of a different, concentration. That's a little bit outside of my base and my knowledge, so I can't speak directly to that. But what I can say is, we notice these things, so we incorporate them into like the curriculum as much as possible. And then you'll see students continue to do this as well. So you'll see them create different clubs, different student organizations, or if there's opportunity to provide more of that impact and focus on more of that specific area, you'll see them do that as well. Like I said, at the end of the day, for us as an MBA program, we have to be able to provide that return on investment for our students. So making sure that they have the tools that are needed to help get to where they're trying to go is going to be what we focus on.
Sounds great, and I agree. It's definitely something that everyone will be and should be paying more attention to, I'm sure. So it's good to see not only that the question was asked, right, but that Tepper is paying attention as well. Additional things about just kind of like the vibe of Tepper, right? Could you give us kind of like what's the class schedule structure? What does it look like during the week? What's the student life looking like? There's one person in the chat who's just interested in kind of like what's a day in the life, I guess, or a week in the life look like for a typical full-time student?
Yeah, no, perfect. And that's why I mentioned, and one of the steps was to, check out the curriculum because it really does differ depending on what program you're interested in. So, just like you said, we have a full-time program, we have our part-time programs. So the day in the life is going to be very different depending on which of those you're applying to. So what I recommend is checking out the curriculum out for each one of them. What you will notice that's going to be pretty consistent about the board is that the core courses are going to take place in the top half of the curriculum. So in the top half is the curriculum map. So, you know, essentially like your first year or year and a half, depending on which program you're in, will be your core courses. And then when you start those concentration and those tracks, that's when you get a chance to pick your electives, and you can pick your electives to focus on meeting the needs for said track or said concentration. Some of the things I think is important to know is this is something that kind of like separates us from many of our parent institutions. Is more about like the size of Tepper. No, it's a significantly smaller student population. You know, we're not going to have a class that has more than 78 students in it. So, you know, that one-on-one interaction, that personal interaction, that opportunity to lead a diverse peer group within your classes, our students are going to have that opportunity. They're not really going to need to compete or compare with one another for FaceTime. So when you're thinking about that day-to-day life and what the experience looks like, you know, you think about the format, those are things that you also want to spend some time thinking about it as well. But of course, you know, our students, they do a really good job of balancing their time. So they're taking their academic course load, they're participating in different student organizations and clubs. They're also, you know, meeting with the MCC suite. They're also meeting with their academic advisor and support staff when needed. So it is difficult to balance a day in a life as a student. So it can be challenging, but trust me, if you're admitted to our program, we're very confident in your ability to do so. Yeah, I think one space that may be a really good fit is when you actually go through the charter path. There's a Life at Tepper student blog. So it gives you insight into some of our current or recent graduates. They can share a little bit more about what it was like for them as well. So I think that could be really helpful. Also, that Tepper MBA journey, like I said, they're 2-minute videos generally, but they're very jam-packed. So you can really follow different students with different backgrounds and different goals. And I'm sure you're going to be able to find someone that's very similar to yourself when it comes to one of those aspects. And that can really allow you to put yourself in their feet while they're going through the Tepper MBA journey.
Yeah, that's great. And I think like, you know, a lot of times, even on our site or in different things that we're doing, we do see that hearing from the current students or students that just graduated, it really does. It paints a different picture, right? Because like there's only so many things that the admissions team can really talk about, but it's the ones who are experiencing it. They have just a different point of view. So it's sometimes nice to get both perspectives while you're considering different schools. You know, because you may just learn a little something else, a little something new, a little something different. Which
Yeah, and there's so many different opportunities for you to get that insight into what it's like to be a student. And we even have an opportunity for, you know, students to actually schedule a classroom visit, a virtual, in-person classroom visit, or a virtual classroom visit. So there's times in the year, if you want to sit in on a Tepper class, you will have the opportunity to do so. There's different times of the year you'll have opportunity to visit campus, meet with a current student for lunch, go on a campus tour, and actually sit in a class as well. So there's so many different opportunities, no matter where you're coming from, to gain access to the Tepper MBA experience. So, you know, just continue to monitor our website and look for those opportunities when they suit you, or when they're the right time for yourself.
Yeah, it sounds good. So now we'll pivot into more of a career services block of questions. I'm trying to organize you here a little bit. I think it's trying to keep it a little smooth. So let's see. So the next kind of section here, just maybe generally, right? What does the career services office provide? What are some of the kind of services that students can expect? And then there's kind of a little more specifics in here, but based on kind of how you start, I might be able to kind of eliminate some of the specifics. So we'll see.
Yeah, so I think that's, you know, first off, I think it's a really good question. You know, to me, I think the MCC office, I keep saying MCC, I should probably stop doing that, but it's the Master's Career Center. I think they do an amazing job. You know, to be completely honest, they're a top ranked program, top ranked student services center. You know, we're very lucky to have them. You know, where I think they separate themselves from like others is they're not student affairs professionals, right? And there's nothing wrong with being a student affairs professional. I'm a student affairs professional. I think I do a decent job in my role. However, they have industry experience. So they've worked in these industries. They've worked with these companies very closely. So they have that insight and that additional knowledge and what it takes to be successful. So you get the opportunity to lean on that particular expertise. And I think that's something that generally separates them from their peers. Also, there's just so many different things that they actually provide. You know, you get the one-on-one career counseling. You get someone to sit there with you and help develop your resume. or you get an opportunity to sit in on corporate presentations. They're there working with you with the interview prep as well. And then there's so many different on-campus recruiting opportunities. So I mean, the Master's Career Center, they provide a lot, and they do so in a very systematic process. We actually share office with them. This is a more recent development. So our Master's Career Center and our admissions office literally share the same space. So I get a little bit more insight into their day-to-day. And I'm very impressed. They have a very systematic approach. They have a calendar that goes throughout the years for their students to make sure that they're meeting these points in which they have the connection points needed to make the connections to the programs. I'm sorry, not the program, but to the job outcomes that they're looking for. So if there's a specific time of year, you will not be left wondering what you should be doing. They'll be helping guide you through this process to make sure that you have the touch points needed to get to that career goal, the end goal once you leave the program.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, and it's cool that you share the office now, because that's nice to be able to kind of get some more information back and forth to that group. And it is nice when the career office works a little more hand in hand with admissions generally, because you can start helping new students before they even start. Just kind of pass them right down the hallway and say, hey, this person's starting, they want to get into this or that, what do we got for them? And start those conversations early.
Yeah, that's another reason why I'm really impressed. Because I mean, you mentioned starting early, and for our graduate students, our full-time students, it starts really early. So they get accepted to the program, they update their LinkedIn profile, and what do you know? You have recruiters reaching out to them already because they know that they're an MBA candidate at Tepper, and they see the value in that. And because of that, our Master Career Center office has actually started a program throughout the summer before our students even join Tepper to help them be better prepared for those early interviews to help them garner the internships in which they're looking for. So I talked about when you start the program. But with the Master's Career Center, it really starts well before that.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. And really great that those resources are available for all the different students. Let's see. So life in Pittsburgh, right? Like what do we need to know? What if we're going to move and live in Pittsburgh for 2 years? What are the kind of the underrated things about the city that a candidate moving from outside the region might not know about?
Yeah. So if you want to talk to someone that's a moving expert, you got the right person. So I'm originally from Louisiana. I grew up in the state of Mississippi. I spent time living in Nashville, Tennessee, Boston, Massachusetts, New York City, New York, and the San Francisco Bay Area. And again, I just relocated to the greater Pittsburgh area. I live in downtown Pittsburgh just this past year. And for me, it's been a great transition. I absolutely love it. Prior to joining Tepper, I did a lot of research on the city because I was truly a bit unfamiliar with it myself. And I started researching, the top medium-sized metropolitan cities in the U.S., generally looking somewhere between 1.5 and 3 million people within a population. Pittsburgh is roughly around 2.5 million. And Pittsburgh consistently started coming up among these lists. And after I started doing my research, I realized that it was going to be a great fit for myself. To me, it's a great place because you get the sophistication of the East Coast, but you also get the hospitality from the Midwest. So you get really friendly people. You get a more reasonable price of living, but you still get big city amenities like public transportation, the arts, the theater. I think people have a perception of Pittsburgh that is a bit outdated. It's known as the Steel City or the City of Bridges. But it's important to know that those aren't the main economic drivers of the city anymore. If you look at our tallest building, it used to be the U.S. Steel Tower, but now it's the UPMC Tower. So, when steel and manufacturing was the primary economic driver, now it's technology, now it's education, now it's science, healthcare. Those are the things that are really driving our economy within the city of Pittsburgh now. And you can really see that being more influenced through our population. You're seeing a lot of people coming to the area, a lot of young people, mainly because of the academic institutions within the area, because there's a ton of other great academic institutions outside of Carnegie Mellon as well. But in regards to being a place to live, I myself have really enjoyed it. It's a nice city and neighborhoods. A lot of our students choose to live a bit closer to campus in the Oakland or Shady Side area, but depending on if you have a family, you want a little farther out, different school district, there's something for everyone here in the Pittsburgh area, that I can assure you. And like I said, one of the biggest pluses is, that cost of living. As someone that has lived in some really big cities, trust me, I live significantly more comfortably here in Pittsburgh than I have in other places.
Yeah, it's still I have to get over there. I'm across the state, over more on the Philadelphia side, but I still need to get a stop over there and check
Yeah,
it out.
I think it's about 4.5 hours.
Yeah, catch a little train ride or something
I can
across.
really check out a Pirates game. The football season coming up. If you're a big Steelers, well, I'm sure well, you might not be a Steelers fan, but if you enjoy football, I know next week I have a group of friends, roughly about 10 people are coming to check out a Steelers versus 49ers game. So there's tons of reasons to visit the area.
There you go. Good game too. All right, let's see. So we'll get into now scholarships, which thank you all for leaving your scholarship questions for me to get to eventually. I promised you I would. So, generally with scholarships, right? What's the process to apply for a scholarship at Tepper? And
Mhm.
then, yeah, I guess we could start with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we try to make the process as simple as we can. So there's no separate scholarship application. So I think that's the first thing to know. So, earlier when I said it's not about submitting your application fast, it's about submitting your best application. That's because it actually has scholarship considerations as well. So your application for admissions is also your scholarship application. So every component of the application that we look at for admissions, we're also looking at when we're considering scholarships as well. For our students, they actually receive their scholarship information nearly as soon as they receive their offer of admissions. There's a time where maybe a day delay potentially or somewhere close to that, but the information we understand is very important to students. So we try to get it to them as soon as possible so they can help make an admissions decision for themselves. So the process again is very simple. Just submit your strongest application, and that's going to give you the best chance of receiving financial aid or scholarship. Now, in regards to the amount of aid or scholarship, it can really depend on the program in which you're applying to. So for our full-time program, you'll generally see scholarships start at roughly around 10,000 and to go all the way up to full tuition. Uh, for our part-time program, you generally see it somewhere between $5,000 to $30,000. That's generally what you're seeing with the part-time program. Again, the programs, are a bit different, but depending on which program you apply to, just keep that in mind as well. The only other thing I want to mention that when it comes to like the scholarship process as well, we try to put as much information again about the information on our website, but our information about our program and the cost of it doesn't actually live on our website. It's hosted by Carnegie Mellon in general. So just know to look for the information and then always try to get a better determination of the actual sticker price, because I know sometimes it can be a bit confusing what's actually tuition and what's actually cost of attendance. And a good example, if you're in a part-time program, some things are included in cost of attendance may be relevant to you, but they may not be relevant. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure people have everything that they can have to consider as well. So you want to think about your own individual situation when you're looking at that information.
Yeah, that's good. It's helpful to know kind of where to look. So hopefully there won't be so many questions about that. So two other scholarship related questions, right? So one that just came in, but I was actually thinking of asking anyway. So thanks, Tanya, for putting that in. And the other one that's been on the list here. So is there a difference between which round you apply in and then the amount of scholarship that might be available within the round?
Mhm.
And the second question also would be, you mentioned there's test waivers available.
Mhm.
Does that have a positive, negative, or no impact on your ability to receive a scholarship award?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer that. So the first question about like which round. So first thing is we do allocate a budget to go through the entire application process. So we're going to be able to admit students in every round in which our students apply for. So it's not going. So here's the reality: if you were going to apply and be admitted in round one, and you were likely to submit that same application in round four, you're probably going to get the same decision. Because we use a systematic approach, so we have a good understanding of what our application pool is going to look like in each round. So we're able to make decisions based off that historical data. And that's the same case when it comes to scholarshiping as well. However, if you look at a budget, there is only so much money. So there's more money in the front because it's all there because we haven't given anything away. And then the more we give away, technically the less there is. But again, we are budgeting for this. So realistically, again, whenever you submit, whenever your strongest application is, whenever you're ready to hit submit on it, that's when you should do it. I wouldn't rush into submit one in round one when you could submit if you can submit a stronger one in round 2 or 3. But if you're ready in round 1, go ahead and do it. The reason I say that if you're ready to go ahead and do it, because it gives you more time to make a decision, and it gives you more time to prepare for the upcoming semester as well. Now, the second half of the question that I want to touch on is, does a test waiver impact your scholarship? It's really more like maybe. And the reason I say maybe is because, well, maybe you have, maybe you're an excellent tester, and maybe the information isn't as necessary for like admissions. Maybe we can see through your application for admissions that, that you can clearly do the quantitative work. But maybe it could enhance your application and could enhance your application for scholarship, potentially. Now, it would be unreasonable for me to say no in that case. But will we have students who are admitted with a test waiver and who also receive scholarship? Yeah, we will. That's for sure. So, I mean, I would say, honestly, it's more of a case-by-case example. The best way I would put it is, if you think a test waiver is going to help your application for admissions, then it's probably also going to help your application for scholarship. If you think that, hey, if I submit a standardized test score, it's going to help drive my applications for admissions, then it's probably going to help drive it for scholarships as well.
Yeah, very fair answer. And I think that's just, I think one thing with waivers, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from like many of the schools I've either worked at or heard give discussions about test waivers, basically, if you look at an application and let's call it 10 components that are submitted, right? And usually a test score is one of those 10, you're evaluated on all 10. If you remove that, now there's 9, you're evaluated on all 9. So like, it's not like you take the 10 and you're still evaluated on that 10th piece, right? So I think that's a thing that there's a lot of misconception about waivers then potentially like negatively impacting folks. And the way that Douglas, you explained earlier, like, the waiver, it's not for every student. So like you could be denied a waiver and then go have to take a test. So then again, you're not going to be like negatively impacted by the fact that you asked for a waiver. Same would go for the scholarship. So I think when it comes finally to scholarships being offered, you would have already had so many other decisions on whether you get a waiver or not, how that's impacted your application or not to be admitted. By the time you get to a scholarship, like by that point, there's no more decision points. Like you're in that same pathway. And, if you would have earned a scholarship with the waiver, you're going to get it without one or whatever that may be. So, so let's see, a couple more minutes left. There's a bunch of people asking about application fee waivers. I know you mentioned it earlier. If you want to just remind folks kind of how that is achieved. And then if there's any other thing you want to end on as well, or if you want to take any more of these questions, just let me know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when it comes to application fee waiver, I mentioned that our application is $200. And again, for some people, $200 may be a drop in the bucket. For others, it's going to be a bit more significant. So my thing is, if we're providing the application fee waiver and you want to take advantage of it, I would just do it. And the way you can actually receive the application fee waiver, the easiest method is just to complete the Chart Your Path program that I mentioned. You can gain access to the Chart Your Path from our website. You're also going to gain access from it by coming to this event today. So, since you had a chance to attend this event, we're going to be able to reach out to you. And when we do, if you're interested in it, you're going to receive more information about it. So again, if you're interested in it, you'll be able to sign up for it via one of the emails in which we send you. You can complete the Chart Your Path. If I'm being honest, you can probably complete it realistically. If you just want to click through it, you can complete it within like 30 minutes, an hour or so. I'm going to recommend that you don't do that. I mean, it wasn't designed for you simply to get an application fee waiver. It was designed for you to submit the strongest application, and the benefit of that is receiving the fee waiver. So, I want you to take it seriously, but if you get it, you're going to have the opportunity to receive the application fee waiver. That way you can avoid the $200 application fee.
Awesome. So Douglas, I guess one last one, and this one came in like pretty early, but I think it's a nice one to end on, is like, what makes Tepper different, right? Like what sets you apart? If I can go to any program in the world, why Tepper?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when it comes to Tepper, I think the easiest way to answer this is, why join Tepper? There are, there's tons of top MBA programs across the globe. They could be a good fit for different students for various reasons. But to me, if you want to be at a program that has more of that smaller, tight-knit community, opportunity to be fully immersed in a program and to be well connected, not only with your cohort, your fellow classmates, but with your faculty and the staff and the entire CMU community, then we're likely going to be a really good fit for you. So if you're looking for that space that gives you the resources that you need to be successful without feeling like you need to compete with your fellow classmates, then I think the Tepper community in general is going to be a place that you can actually thrive.
Sounds awesome. And hopefully we'll have a bunch of people that will be joining that community soon, as round one deadlines are coming up on, not to put you on the spot, early September, I'm going to guess. I don't have the date offhand here.
Yeah,
but
I believe it's actually in October. Real quick little search on
there you
that.
go. Okay, so coming up soon, we'll say. So you have some time, but definitely check out the application, check out the Chart Your Path, and follow the Chart Your Path. So that way you can chart your path, right? So
October 2nd. There we go.
What was that?
October 2nd.
October
Round
2nd. Okay, good. So about, let's call it 6 weeks or so to get those applications ready to go and hit submit. If there are additional questions or follow-up, or apologies to the folks we did not get to today, but there are ways to contact the admissions office to get those questions answered, or you may be able to find answers to your questions on the Tepper website or through following the Chart Your Path and some of the helpful links and videos that Douglas had mentioned earlier. Douglas, anything else you want to end on?
Not yet. Again, just thank you so much for joining. It's always nice to see your interest in Tepper. This is the beginning of the conversation. It's not the end. So again, we'll be reaching out to you. And if you have more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office directly. We're more than happy to help.
Sounds great. Thanks all for joining, and thank you, Douglas. And again, the recording will be sent out to you in the next day or so. So thanks a lot.